will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City. We're getting 10,000 migrants a month. Every community in this city is going to be impacted. The city we knew, we're about to lose.
You just heard from a Democratic mayor. That was Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, essentially complaining about the tens of thousands of migrants that have arrived in Manhattan in recent months. In fact, the number currently sits at a total of 110,000. And the migrants obviously need a place to stay. They need services.
Okay, folks, doing a video, the migrant problem that's happening in the US. And it's happening here too in Canada, in Toronto. Those same migrants are coming up here. Well, I don't know if it's the same. It's not just from Mexico and South America, it's from other countries in Africa. And seems like they're up here too. And Trudeau's trying to they're gonna have to do something. They're trying to do something here. And the people in like the Toronto mayor, I think wants money from the government. She made a statement a month ago, or was it 2 months ago? And they want help, with funds from the government. But there is really bad there. I mean, you find out. I made this video because everything they are correct in everything they're gonna say, but they're giving excuses. It's totally what they're doing to Texas. Who kind of started this, Greg Abbott, and giving him a pass. It's kind of terrible what they're saying. Well, not terrible, but I mean, disappointing. I mean.
And the current social safety net programs in New York specifically are beginning to buckle. There's a lot of frustration, a lot of anger. And while Mayor Eric Adams is complaining and also pointing his finger at Joe Biden and the federal government, it's important to know he's not the only one. Here's the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul.
The state has deployed enormous resources toward New York City's valiant efforts to shelter and support these nearly 100,000 migrants who have already arrived here. The reality is, we've managed thus far without substantive support from Washington. And despite the fact that this is a national, indeed an inherently federal issue. But New York has shouldered this burden for far too long. This crisis originated with the federal government, and it must be resolved through the federal government. The borders and decisions about who can work are solely determined by the federal government.
Now, say what you will about Kathy Hochul, the very last part of that statement was absolutely correct. It's just true. This is an issue that is dealt with on a federal level. And right now, states are dealing with basically the brunt of a very real crisis. Now, we're going to get to Texas Governor Greg Abbott's role in all of this because it actually has been overestimated in the press, and the reality is a little more complicated than that. But before we do, I want to give you...
Overestimated? I don't think so. We haven't really explained how it affected Texas. I mean, they didn't explain the blue states, but they never explained Texas. I mean, how is it bad there?
You a sense of what the people living in New York City are feeling about this issue. Let's watch.
There is consensus here across geography and states on increased federal resources to cities and municipalities dealing with this issue. The second is to allow for work authorizations so that the folks in here can get to work and start supporting themselves as soon as possible. They are prevented from getting jobs. jobs, they are prevented from employment, and that is part of the strain on our public systems. The faster that folks can access the work that they're asking for legally, the better we can solve this problem. And the third is extension of temporary protected status for Venezuelans who are the largest population that are arriving here.
There you have Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez attempting to address the issue as a sitting United States Congresswoman. And she is calling for something that I think most Democrats in the state of New York are calling for, which is let's expedite their workers' visas so these individuals can be self-sufficient, they can work, they can contribute to the economy. But the Biden administration has actually been pretty resistant to that, allegedly because they fear that expediting these workers' visas would actually encourage more migrants to attempt to come to the United States as asylum seekers. And when you hear
Yeah, that that could happen. It could be because of politics too. Like he's gonna be seen as like he's letting these people in, like open borders kind of. That's gonna be it's gonna seem like. See, Biden's trying to. It's like the Republican voters, I guess, and and people in the middle, centrist voters, who seem like he's letting these people in, more people in. I mean, he's worried about this kind of he's trying to play. See, both this thing is more politics. That's what this is bullshit. It's too bad the migrant, they're caught in the middle. He's been playing politics too. The Abbott, he's playing politics, and so is Biden. And these mayors are these Democratic mayors and governor, they're being caught in the middle. And it's happening in Chicago too. They haven't seen so in Chicago. Like he's trying to deal with it there. A progressive guy. I know they haven't shown him. But he's not complaining, I guess, or he is. But they're trying to do the best they can. But maybe it hasn't gone to a point. But it's pretty bad there. I don't know. I don't know why they haven't shown that. I guess there's. But that's the New York media, maybe. Got it from New York. Those no, it wasn't New York. What was it? NBC? And was it CNN? I'm not gonna go back. Well, anyways.
the protests in the background as AOC is trying to speak, understand, look, I know that it's very easy to kind of brush them off as hateful people, but when you're already experiencing a lack of resources for your own community, for your own schools, you can understand where that rage kind of comes from. And I want to give you a quick sense of what I'm talking about. One more video, and then we'll open it up to discussion.
On opening day, kids rushing into the largest school system in the country, and it just got even bigger, with 21,000 new children of asylum seekers also starting classes today in New York. Mayor Eric Adams is frustrated with the steady wave of migrants. He says the city is overwhelmed with 10,000 arriving.
Okay, it's NBC News. This probably was, I don't know what the other news from. The news was the other one of those NBC or
a month, straining
ABC,
city services and creating a desperate need for help from Washington. The schools face the growing task of providing academic resources, supplies, a more diverse staff. Many do not have bilingual programs.
Last year, it went from like 20 kids to like almost 30 kids in a classroom. It's gonna make it tough. It's gonna make it tough. Somebody's gotta solve these problems.
So this is a very real problem. It is, in fact, a crisis. As I said, I'll get to the Texas governor's role in this and how it actually has been overestimated quite a bit. But before I do, I'm really curious what you think so far, Cenk, about what places like New York and
He's
Chicago...
going to give him a pass. I'm surprised.
are dealing with, and how they claim there's been a lack of a response from the federal government.
Yeah. So, look, I said this on day one. I'm going to repeat it even with greater fervor today. I think that what Texas did makes sense. And so I know that a lot of people on the left don't want to hear that. But think about it, guys. So,
Makes sense. Yeah, it sure does. You just playing politics with people's lives, I guess. That makes sense, Jink. Oh, Lord. It doesn't make sense. Terrible what he done. I mean,
they had this.
how was it bad in Texas? I mean, how was it this bad? I don't think it's this bad in Texas. I like to see I like to see what they're suffering. I mean,
problem all along, and it wasn't spread out to many different states. It was just in Texas, and of course other border states. And the federal government kept saying, "I don't care." Okay. Now, to be fair to the federal government, it doesn't just quite say that. It has a lot of different programs in place. The idea that there's open borders is nonsense. No, there's a border and they enforce it. They return people all the time, etc. But tons of people come in, and the border states said, "Why?
well, Trump didn't care, did he?
Why do we have to shoulder all of this by ourselves?" And started shipping it to other places that were more left wing.
Showed it all. Yeah, really. That's disingenuous, though. I think it's just politics. You know, he's doing politics there. Greg Abbott. You really think it was that bad? Yeah. And doing it to blue states.
And said they were more open to immigrants. So you're open to immigrants? Here you go. Here's immigrants. And now
Well, they didn't say that they're open to immigrants. Maybe some of them did, but yeah. But this is just nonsense, anyways. I mean, it's Greg Abbott. He's defending Greg Abbott. Terrible. This guy is a goof, corporate goof. Greg Abbott. He's just playing politics. I mean, and Biden is going. Biden is going along with them, with Abbott, because they say his border is open. And that's bullshit. And he's not. He's doing worse than He's deported more people than Trump or Obama, actually. So.
Now all of a sudden New York realizes, okay, well, being open to immigrants has consequences, right? And they're trying to adjust the best they can, and they're trying to be as welcoming as they can, but obviously some anger is building. And so why does Texas have to deal with it? We all should deal with it.
No,
And
they shouldn't all deal with it. The government shouldn't do this. Nobody should deal with it except the federal government. I mean, the federal government should deal with it. I mean, but the people didn't ask to deal with it. The politicians. I think the politicians say that. They want to deal with it, not the people themselves.
it's of course a federal issue. And so they're not welcoming of immigrants. I am. But that doesn't mean that we have to make New Mexico, Texas, and Arizona deal with the whole thing.
Agreed.
No, it means that we all...
No, nobody should deal with it. The federal government. Well, we all should deal with it. Really. I sound like a right winger. I sound like a right winger. Well, but I'm saying, the people, I know what people feel. Well, I mean, you said, why should I deal with this shit? That's a government. It's federal government. And you're wrong, Jink. We don't want to deal with it. The federal government should deal with it. I mean, sure, we should let people in, give them a chance, but that doesn't mean I want to. I mean, it's going to be at my expense. That's what people think. I mean, it doesn't mean I'm gonna. I mean. We feel they want to help them, but you know what I mean. It doesn't mean we all have to suffer. Dumbass.
Are responsible for brothers and sisters that are both the immigrants and the New Yorkers and the Texans, etc. So now, to give you a scope of the scale here, there's different reasons for different parts of the immigration puzzle. There's folks coming in from
being a
Africa
Christian,
now
I guess.
as well. But Venezuela is an
but-
interesting example. Just a bunch of years ago, like around 2018 or so not that long ago, there's only
People should deal with it. Like people want to help them, but I mean, why should people suffer like this? I mean, you know what I mean? They want to help them. People are kind. But the federal government's responsibility. I mean, when you say we should all pitch in, we're not bad people. They want, we should help. We'd like to help here and there. Some are helping them, I guess. You know what I mean? There are cases of people going, like, helping them, letting people in, maybe. I think in times like this, you know what I mean? But they should be the federal government. Even up here in Toronto, the same thing. I think the provincial government, the guy Ford here, the premier says, I think he wants Trudeau to handle it, the feds. Get Trudeau to deal with it. But yeah, when you say we should all do this, help out, people want to help, but they don't want. They should be the federal government. They don't want to do it at their expense. I mean, and they never asked for this. Really, they didn't really ask. You mean the politicians? So that
only 100 Venezuelans that had come into the country in the year. Now that number is up to 150,000. 150,000. Okay. Now Venezuela has giant problems in and of itself, right? But it gives you a sense of scale. So it is very difficult to figure out where to put these folks. How do you get them jobs? Now, I didn't know this until recently. Asylum seeking, of course, takes a little while. Everybody knows that. But it turns out the process normally takes 3 to 4 years.
Correct, yeah.
So what are you supposed to do in the 3 to 4 years? Well, that's why they're asking for those work authorizations. Both AOC, Eric Adams. An interesting note here. Eric Adams, generally a conservative Democrat. Kathy Hochul, generally a corporate Democrat. And AOC, a progressive Democrat. But all three of them are saying very similar things. Like, okay, good, yeah, but yeah, we're hurt, dog. And federal government, you need to help, right? Well, where were we when Texas was saying the same thing? Let's be honest and fair to everybody.
Was it that bad in Texas? I don't think it was that bad in Texas. No, I can't be honest and fair. I don't think so. I mean, Texas, they were doing, but they created this problem anyways. They made it worse. Like when he did this, Texas, I guess, DeSantis did some of this too. He made it more, that actually made them more want to come. Because Texas, they were, like, it's brutal. I don't think they were letting them in. And you see what happened to they're trying to cross into from the Gulf. And all these traps and shit like, I mean. And what's happening. People losing their lives. And, but I think this made them worse. I think there's a story that made them more wanted to come. Because now they realize that they're going to go up they're going to be sent to New York. They're going to be at blue states. Because Greg Abbott, I don't know what he's letting them in. He wasn't letting them in. I don't know if he's sending them back. That's another. I don't know if he was in this. Because I don't know if that's illegal. She's going to say that you can't send them back. If they're asylum seekers. But but Trump just sent them back anyways when he was there. When he was in office. He didn't disregard the law. So I don't think it was this bad. I think when it became worse when they started sending them up to the blue states, and more came. I think that made them more. They realized that they're going to New York, they're going to Detroit, Chicago. And that's more incentive there for them to come. You know what I mean? Because Texas, I don't know if he's letting them in. Was he letting them? You know what I mean? He's letting more in probably, and he's just sending them up to the blue states.
Buddy, okay? So, but now it's New York's issue and some other states. Let's go help them. And you know it's bad, not based on the numbers, but this is the most telltale sign. When corporate Democrats like Kathy Hochul and I would put Eric Adams in that bucket too, when those two come out against Biden, that almost never happens. That is defying authority, right? And that is not allowed in the Democratic Party.
Well, their political careers are on the line because the anger in New York is very obvious.
To choose this life over friends, over family.
I want to see that movie, but
right? I mean, look, I feel like it's a story that has largely been ignored or downplayed, and that's the problem that I have with this story overall. Just the lack.
So it's not a big story actually. Some people they're doing this story. Some people in the independent media and black media, they're doing this too. There's this story in you didn't mention Chicago. Chicago's pretty bad too. But they're dealing with it better than New York though, I think. But it's not that. It's not good there though. But
of interest in what these communities are currently faced with, because their economic situation was already dire with divestment in education, divestment in certain social programs. You know, after the pandemic, obviously it takes a while for things to kind of get back to normal. A lot of people had lost their jobs. Like, it is already a dire situation. And then on top of that, New York was not ready. It did not have the infrastructure in place in order to take in all of these migrants, right? And so what they're now dealing with is, okay, New York City specifically has a right to shelter policy, meaning anyone who asks for shelter must get the shelter, which has actually made New York a far more desirable place for these migrants to go to. So the dominant narrative so far had been, oh, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is the one who's busing all of these people or sending all of these people to New York City. But he actually accounts for a small fraction of the migrants who have arrived in New York City. So I want to take you to
yeah, I read about that.
Graphic 5 here, because as the New York Times reports, after crossing the southern border, thousands have made their way to New York with the help of officials in Texas. Governor Greg Abbott has sent thousands in a campaign
He sent thousands in a campaign to provoke. See, there even more is gonna come, and they know this. See, if you haven't done this, there wouldn't be that much. See, this is an incentive for them to come up more, for more of them to come, because they realize that they're gonna be sent to New York. See, he's pretty, you know what I mean? And they're advertising that too. These guys are Abbott himself. So it's creating I think it's created more of a problem. He created more. He's pretty smart. Yeah, this is just politics. He's just doing it. You see, Texas has I don't think it was that bad. Not bad as he created more of a problem. So to give him a pass, I mean, it's terrible. Giving this guy, it's outrage. Giving this guy a pass. Greg Abbott is a terrible guy. You guys give this guy a pass.
Outrage and force the federal government to tighten border security. So he has done that to an extent. However, Abbott's buses account for only a small fraction of the people who have.
Don't court. You know, you want some militarized state border. think they did Biden send the National Guard down there, I think. But they're not, I mean,
have arrived. El Paso, a Democrat-led city, has also sent new arrivals to New York at the migrants' request. Officials there have said, and some people
yeah,
have
they know
made
that, I said it already anyways. This is all foolishness.
their own way. So because of the fact that New York City has this right to shelter policy, obviously, if you're coming here as an asylum seeker, as you're going through the asylum process, as you're essentially waiting to have the ability to work here legally, you're going to need a place to stay. And so naturally, people are going to gravitate toward parts of the country that have these types of policies that are far more friendly to individuals in need of shelter.
Yes, and guys, when we all feel the quote-unquote pain, as in budgetary pain, overfilled schools, overfilled shelters, etc., we have to work together, left wing and right wing, to figure out what's the right number, what is the right policy. We can't just say, oh yeah, let them all in and let the border states deal with them, or don't let anybody in, right? No, let's have a rational policy, and then let's figure out how to sort immigrants. And by the way, fund a lot more judges. And I've been saying this for years and years.
Judges, fund a lot more judges. How much money that's going to take? And how much time that's going to take to get more judges in? I mean, they don't want to do that anyways. But you're going to, well...
Trump years, during the Biden years, you need an army of judges so that some people who don't have documents aren't sitting around for 3 or 4 years. And because if they do, one, it's a giant problem for them. But two, it's also a giant problem for us. So if they can't get gainful employment, they're going to have to eat. And they've got family.
That's right.
So they're going to have to do something.
Propaganda.
And you don't want that to fester.
Don't do more crime. Don't do crime. Don't do crime. Well, they're gonna be criminals, I guess. They don't. Yeah, they don't work. They're gonna be criminals, I guess. Everything's propaganda, man, with these guys, or something, or crime, or home, or whatever.
That could be incredible positive energy, and some of that could be negative energy.
Well, let's keep it real. A lot of them end up working, in the, I don't know what it's called, unofficial market. Basically, instead of taking jobs where they're documented and where, they have at least some...
In the underground, I guess. Underground economy. That's what you're trying to say, I guess.
Ability to protect themselves through our system, they end up working kind of underground economy. That's the word I was looking for. They work in the underground.
I said that. Okay, underground
economy where exploitation is common, abuse is common. So a lot of these migrants end up getting abused as a result of that. I don't know who is advising the Biden administration about how expediting the workers' visas is a bad idea because it's going to encourage more people to come to the United States. But either way...
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that's encouraging. I think what Abbott is doing is encouraging. And they know that he's broadcasting them. He's broadcasting it, saying that New York is friendly to asylum seekers. So, and New York is broadcasting it, I guess, as you see, I mean, but I don't think they're really, like, they've always been they've always had that, actually. But now he's just exploiting it. He's just exploiting them and his politics. I mean,
there are currently so many people in the country already in desperate need of workers' visas, and if you don't give it to them, what are they supposed to do for 3 to 4 years? And I get that, like, look, some just say, like, deport them all, but based on our laws, we can't do that. Okay, so members of Congress.
Based on our laws. Didn't Trump do it? Did Trump did the he didn't deport them or something? He kept the children in cages. That's terrible. But see, if Trump gets in, I'm gonna say this: if Trump gets in, he's gonna deport them. We won't let them in. We probably close the border. Who knows? Stop immigration. At least we'll stop the migrant. He's not gonna care. And Biden now he wants to see Biden. You know, but Biden's doing some of his policies anyways. His immigration policies. Yeah, I mean, you notice that. And he doesn't want to do anything on it, like executive order, because he doesn't want to. People think it's open borders. So that's why they think it's open borders, because there's so many migrants. People think that, oh, the Biden's letting all these people in. I mean, I think he wants a way to stop that. That's what they're figuring out. I don't think he's going to do that. But I mean, and they realize people, like maybe the leftists, like people on the left, want people in, these people in, right? But the people are suffering, people in the right and even the middle class. They don't want these people in. I'm sorry to say, Anna, but they're suffering right now, and they don't want these people in, like this. And they're gonna suffer like this. And they're gonna agree with Trump. That's what human nature is. I mean, it's bad, but and Biden realized this, and he's not really doing anything. Like he's going half measured. I don't think he really wants to. He could just. You're right. They could just get more visas for these people. But he doesn't want to do it because it'll make him look worse. Yeah, like he's letting more people in. And it's kind of politics. And you want to be tough on the border. He doesn't really believe in like immigration to that extent, like a lot of like say Bernie Sanders or the leftists. I mean, the conservative Democrat, they don't believe in like, you know, I mean, they believe in like, look what he's doing. He's deporting he's hired more ISIS workers, and he's deporting a lot of people. I mean, illegal immigrants, undocumented workers. Yeah. I mean, just as bad as Obama. Maybe nowadays, more than Trump. Almost as bad as Obama. Obama deported the most undocumented. But one thing though, he had the DACA. He created DACA. So he tried. So if they're here, they could stay. Like if they're like students or in the country for so many years, so they could stay a certain time, and they could be no, they get I think they have to what was it, go back? No, they don't have to go back. If they're born, they came out as they came out as they're like 10 years, like they're in the 5 years old when they came here, so they didn't have to go back. They wouldn't get deported, something like that. So I don't think that's still around, or because Trump stopped that when he came back when he came into power. But anyways.
Congress, really this falls on them and their inability to just do their jobs and actually pass legislation, immigration reform. The last time there was any conversation about immigration reform was back in 2014, and that failed. That fell apart.
No, guys, you feel like it can't be real, can it? I mean, at least that's how I felt when I was younger. Like that the people in power don't really know what they're doing, and they've set up these super incomplete and inefficient systems where tons of problems arise, and then they never fix them. They never go back and go, well, not only did we blow it in the beginning, but I see those giant glaring errors. Man, we just won't fix them.
I know.
That seems unconscionable, right?
But we'll
Like,
complain
unthinkable.
about them. But we'll complain about them.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but the government is broken. The only thing that ever passes is corporate subsidies and corporate tax cuts. So we've got to. I've said this for 20 straight years now. I've formed Wolfpack to fight against it. But if you don't fix money in politics, nothing ever gets fixed. Because the only thing that ever passes is subsidies to corporations, and this stuff festers and festers. Guys, it's a giant problem for those immigrants. They're lying on the streets. They're going to get abused. The underground markets are terrible in a lot of ways, etc. But some of them will turn to crime because they're not going to have any choices if they can't work and they have to feed their families, right?
Here's a crime issue though. Now they're going on a crime bent, but yeah, but he's right. They're going to turn to crime, man.
Then we're going to have a bigger problem. Is it because they're naturally bad morals or criminals? Of course not. Undocumented immigrants commit crime at half the rate of natural-born Americans, right? But if you put them in a situation where they have no choice, not only will some of that arise from some percentage, but then it'll anger everyone else, and it'll make them turn more against immigrants, and it creates a vicious cycle. So especially with right-wing media waiting out there for like one or two bad crimes.
No, it's exactly right.
And then they're going to focus on them and pretend that that's what represents all immigrants that have ever come into the country. So it's a bit of a time bomb.
But they're doing that anyways. You know, some media's doing that anyways. And Fox News, they still, I mean, they're doing that right now, probably. You have these odd stories here and there. Not as much, but like before. I mean, but now they're doing that. They're still doing that. And they always do that.
And let's go, Biden, do whatever you need to do to, so he's got to do, guys, one last thing, sorry, Anna. He's got to start doing everything by executive order. Because these lunatics in the House, they're never going to allow him to pass anything. Mm-hmm. They can't even fund the very...
Yeah, how about his own party too? Like Manchin in the Senate. They don't forget about that. In the Senate.
Very basic, bare minimum of the government to think that they would do immigration reform is inconceivable.
So let me actually get to that real quick because I think it's important to kind of talk about how Biden is now going in the way of Donald Trump with Donald Trump's immigration policies. Let's go to the last graphic.
Yep. Didn't I say that? He's going to doing Trump's policies.
Here, the Biden administration also announced a new asylum policy that disqualified most people from applying.
Here's there. I'm going to read it. They announced a new asylum policy that disqualified most people from applying for asylum if they have crossed into the U.S. without either securing an appointment, and that's kind of at an official port of entry, or proving that they had sought legal protection in another country along the way. Yeah, that's kind of bullshit. The policy was struck down by a federal judge in July. Okay, but was upheld on appeal with one legal. See? So this is the thing what Trump would do. So he's doing Trump's policy. So you think he's gonna just do see, he's doing Trump's policy. But he realized that people they don't want really, I don't know. See, the leftists, the hardcore leftists would want, you know what I mean? But most people, they agree with this. I'm trying to say probably most of the Americans, especially now. He said, well, why you let them in? If you're so much, they would say, don't let them in, like cut the number until we figure this out. I mean, there's, you know what I mean? Or stop the migrant, the asylum seekers until so we can manage the amount or somehow. But people would agree with this. I'm sorry, Jenk and Anna. He said, why they doing this?
Applying for asylum if they have crossed into the United States without either securing an appointment at the official port of entry or proving that they had sought legal protection in another country along the way. The policy was struck down by a federal judge in July, but was upheld on appeal while legal challenges to the policy work their way through the courts. So it's not just Biden being able to do things unilaterally, much like Trump did, to be quite honest with you. It's that our judicial system also sometimes gets in the way of actually implementing some of the policies that could at least temporarily alleviate some of these issues, but it is a Band-Aid on a gushing wound, and it's really...
so you guys agree. They actually agree with the policy. Interesting. That's interesting. They actually agree with that. Okay, yes, that makes sense. That's weird. Oh, that's kind of the right way. They never would see. That's weird. Cause these guys would never agree with that. Something like this, a Trump policy. Yeah. But a Band-Aid solution. Yeah. But why just? I don't know. Why not just? Well, they can't send them back. See, is the thing. But people would say, why just stop don't allow them in. Well, they can't though, because the law. But Trump would disregard the law. You know, Trump would he don't let them in. They would disregard it. But people might say that they say, oh, I'm gonna. But then again, there might be. You take him to court, right? So they might stop. Well, even if they didn't Trump, they disregard. See that they took him to court and they disregard the ruling anyways when he was in power. Well, that's interesting. They agree with people want this. I mean, why would it be weird if they just? But normally they would never agree to. Who would never agree like this? These guys. See, that proves that these guys are gone to the center, to the right. These guys would never agree with that. I mean, something like the Trump would do. So he's following Trump's policy. I mean, but they disagree with that though. I mean, yeah, deporting more people. It makes more sense. Anyways, let's finish up this.
Important to keep that in mind. If you just rely on the, President of the United States passing policy through executive order, it's just a flimsy way of dealing with a much deeper issue that we have here. We are in desperate need of reform that needs to be done through Congress, and Congress is broken. So the next time you hear any lawmaker complain about the migrant crisis, ask them why they're on X, complaining about it, when they're literally United States representatives or senators who could actually do something about it.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah. The only thing is, they read about everything, I guess, except for the Greg Abbott. I think he started the whole thing. He made it worse by sending them up to New York, and he knows that. See, he knows that they're asylum seeking. The state, New York, is asylum seekers. They have a policy, so he knows that, and he made it worse. And now they're going more people want to go. They want to come now to the border He knows that they're gonna send him up to New York, so he's making it worse. So they're wrong on this. That's my main point in this video, anyways. I mean, give this guy, giving Greg Abbott a pass. It's terrible. I mean, if they're trying to appear to the right so much, so all these guys would have crushed Greg Abbott back in the old days. I mean, but they would say everything else. They would have said, yeah, it's terrible, and Biden should do this. The federal government should fix it. But the old TYT would have crushed Greg Abbott if he started the whole thing. And his nuance, really. They said they're dealing with it, but how is it? They never said any. I don't see any stories. You see the border. I don't see people suffering. Like, I don't know. I guess the border. I don't see these people in the towns like in New York suffering like the money. Like Houston or Dallas. Are there migrants? Are they going in like on the streets cause literally they're on the streets in New York, in Chicago. Is it that bad? I don't think it's that bad in Texas like it is now it's in New York. Anyways, folks, these guys are, I don't know, man, giving a pass to Greg Abbott. Terrible, but these guys nowadays, that's how they roll. I'm out.